The COVID-19 pandemic has caused everybody to be in a situation where working from home is now the everyday norm. This week on Talking Real, we talk about some of the lessons we've learned and the things we've struggled with in learning how to best work from home.
So what are some things that you can do to be more productive and efficient working from home on this episode?
Welcome back to Talking Real, brought to you by the Oklahoma Association of Realtors. You're tuned into episode 117 of Talking Real, and you're here with Jeff and Nabil. Nabil, how are you today?
Doing well. Just, I guess, waiting for the storm to roll in. Apparently, we're supposed to get some bad weather.
Yeah, I mean, we're here on Tuesday, and they are forecasting like baseball-sized hail. So We'll see how that goes. Wish us luck.
Yeah. So I sat outside this morning while I could. And then...
You know, if this were being filmed live, I would say if your car's not insured and your house isn't insured, you better jump on that right now. But by the time you listen to this, it'll be too late. And so it's not of any help. But I hope that when that baseball-sized hail comes, that you do have sufficient insurance to cover your house and your car.
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
I mean, everyone in Oklahoma would have thought of that, right?
Hopefully.
It's a peril of living here.
Absolutely. So we're still out here socially distanced in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on, although I think we're getting closer to possibly getting back into the office a little bit and things starting to open up. You know, we're looking at sometime in May, things will slowly start to open up. But you know what? We're still away from each other in our remote studios, I guess.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like a studio, but it is. So I hope everyone's being safe out there. And, you know, again, as things open up, just remember that the pandemic isn't over. And so be careful because still some risk out there. So just make sure that you're staying ahead of things. On top of that, we've put some new resources out that are updated, and you can go to okrealtors.com/coronavirus and you can get some information there. There's been like another round of federal aid that's been released, things like that. We've got some information out there for you guys. So make sure you're staying on top of that and checking out that website so you can get all the resources that you need that we've gathered for you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And also some fun things like fun Zoom backgrounds that we use regularly in our meetings.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yeah, Nabil put together some Zoom backgrounds because that's all the rage these days is Zoom meetings. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, but we've got some backgrounds there that are realtor designed backgrounds. So they're pretty cool and people are using Zoom right now. So if you have that option, check it out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like with all this is going on, we've kind of learned a lot about working from home and working remotely. And it's been an interesting experiment for a lot of people and a learning experience for everybody. And we wanted to talk today about some good practices in working from home because, man, it can really wear you out if you're not watching out. It can be very difficult. Some people love it. I'm one of those people that I feel like I do pretty well working from home, but I know a lot of people just really struggle with it. And so we wanted to just talk about some ideas today, some things that we've learned, some information we've seen out there online about working from home that we thought could be helpful, maybe a couple of things that you haven't thought of yet that will help keep you working from home. Oh. Well, let me say this, keep you sane working from home.
Yeah, all you can do is kind of manage sanity working from home.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult time for everybody, but you know, if you've got your setup right at home, and realtors are pretty good about this because I think a lot of realtors spend a lot of time working from home and working remotely. They're not necessarily going in punching a clock 8 to 5, but it's still a new dynamic of working from home that maybe a lot of people haven't experienced. So hopefully these will be some good ideas that will help guide you as you are figuring out how to continue to improve this working from home situation. Because while things are opening up, there'll still be a lot of people working from home. It's still going to be phased in. So we got to keep doing well as best we can when we're working from home.
Indeed.
And I think the interesting thing, we try to look up a little bit of statistics about how people feel working from home to get a better idea of like who's it for and what do people struggle with and those kinds of things. And I think a lot of people see some pretty significant benefits in working from home. Like I said, I think it works well for me. I don't know, how's it been going for you?
I am used to working from home because before that's what I was doing. I was working from home. So I've experimented with a few different things, but I do enjoy working from home because it gives you a little more flexibility. It is, on the flip side, a little boring because I don't see people, and you don't get that face-to-face interaction, especially when you're forced to work from home. When you're not forced to work from home, you can meet up outside. But right now, I think I do fine working from home, just because I've been used to it.
Yeah. I spent the first 9 years of my career working in state government, which meant absolutely like punch the clock, 8 to 5 kind of thing, had to be in the office every day. And, I work a little bit differently now, especially like right after I left. And it's, I liked it. I didn't know that I would care for it much, but it's been a good change for me. But there's still some struggles with it. But I think, when you look at what are some of the big benefits that people see, like you said, that flexibility, it's nice to be able to, go out and run an errand if you need to and kind of design your schedule, what works best for you. Now, some people do still have to like punch a clock working 9 to 5, but realtors, that's not really going to be the case. But since they work 24/7, 365 anyway, but
there's no
that
clock.
Flexibility
the clock
is really
always
nice.
On.
Absolutely. And another thing that I really love is, and I think a lot of people agree with me, is not having to commute. Man, I hate commuting, and I spent a long time having to do that, 30 minutes to work, 45 minutes home, because it always took longer to get home, and just spending, an hour a day in your car I don't like it at all. So it's been nice to be able to kind of get up, have coffee, get into the office and start working.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Although sometimes a drive is kind of therapeutic because you can, jam out to music or listen to a podcast, or I like catching up on phone calls in the car.
That's a good point too.
But I dislike sitting in traffic, as do probably 99% of other people. So
yeah. On the flip side, though, like some of the downsides, and I think one of the biggest ones for me, and I think I was talking to Will, one of our coworkers, a little earlier, and I think that loneliness that sets in when you're just at home, you don't have that social interaction. I think that is absolutely one of the hardest parts, because while we can be on a Zoom call or we use Slack at the office and we communicate frequently with that, it's just not the same as sitting in somebody's office and having that like face-to-face communication. So, I mean, for me, that like loneliness aspect is definitely something that I've had to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said before, regular work from home, not that big of a deal because you can still meet up with people outside. But right now, when we're almost 100% just staying home, that is definitely a struggle.
For sure. And I think like being motivated, it can sometimes be, I don't know. I think for a lot of people, it's hard to get motivated at home. There's a lot of distractions, especially if you've got, young kids that are at home right now. Like that has to be extraordinarily difficult.
Right.
We don't have, you and I, we don't have kids, but I sympathize with the people that are having to balance work while also dealing with that situation, which has its own set of difficulties for sure. Mm-hmm. And then, working from home too, we all work all the time anyway, it seems like, but particularly when you're officing from home, it's like always there. So like being able to just step away from work and put it down and be done with it, has been kind of a challenge, because I'll hit like that, 5 o'clock time period. And like, I could easily keep working on into the evening if I don't just like, okay, it'll be there tomorrow. Like leave it alone.
Right. Well, because, your work and your home have kind of merged. So, I mean, I caught myself doing that one time. It was like 9 and I kept looking at stuff and I'm like, why is my computer like just on perpetually? This, and it's not like I was being 100% productive at that time because we were eating dinner and stuff like that, but it was still on and I was still like checking things and doing things. It was, I kind of caught myself and slapped myself on the wrist, and I was like, hey, turn it off.
Yeah, exactly. So let's think about some good strategies for how to manage all this. I mean, again, there's the good and the bad, and but managing that bad side, capitalizing on the good stuff. I mean, and that's, I think, the hard part from working from home. And, to start with is developing a routine or set working hours, right? I think that not letting yourself get into a situation where either I'm just laying in bed all day and I never get up and go into the office kind of thing can be a real problem, or where you're working too much. I mean, I think that whether you're one of those people who tends to work too much or one of those people who tends to maybe not be able to get motivated as well, having a routine is going to be the best bet. Create those work hours that will force you to say, okay, from this hour to this hour, this is work time. And I think you can fashion that however you want, but being somewhat strict with it, I think, is really important, because otherwise just that chaos can really spiral out of control. And on top of that, in the morning when you're getting ready for that work time, making yourself ready. Getting out of your pajamas, I think, is what we're trying to say here, which is a challenge for me because I like to be really comfortable and absolutely take advantage of it, be comfortable. Nobody says put a shirt and tie on when you're working from home, but having that part of your routine of, okay, I'm getting ready for the day, just like I do if I were going into the office or similar to it. So I'm going to put on clean clothes and I'm going to, brush my teeth. Make sure you're still doing those things so that you have that routine built up so that there's, something good there. So I think those are a couple of things that have been a struggle for me that I've had to adopt.
Yeah. That was definitely, I kind of, again, caught myself kind of slipping in those routines. I'd still get up and brush my teeth and stuff like that. But then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start getting up in the morning and take a shower like I usually would. And that just changed my whole day. So creating those routines, definitely a good thing. And then, in the office, there were times where you'd walk around maybe to get some water or go talk to the coworker, pop into someone's office. You don't do that anymore. So I think it's important to kind of every so often get up and make yourself kind of maybe even walk around your house or go get water, go outside for 2 minutes, come back in, just a little break, I think, is really important as well.
I agree. We've been really good at, when it hasn't been raining or whatever, that we'll take breaks and go for a 20-minute walk, right? It's okay, it's fine if I put everything aside, let's go outside, get some fresh air, go walk a mile and come back and then be ready to get back to it. I think that's really refreshing as well. It kind of wakes you up and gets the blood flowing, energizes you. So definitely it's easy for me when I'm working from home to be sitting at the desk and the next thing I know, it's 7 hours later and I haven't moved. I'm what is going on? So don't do that.
Yeah.
Also,
although I have done that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, it's not good. Another thing is just having that communication with your coworkers and friends and teammates and everything else. Like I mentioned, for me, that disconnected loneliness that kind of fits in is a real struggle. And man, that can just really start to compound. A lot of people are really outgoing, social people. And I think that's particularly true for realtors. I mean, if you're not a people person, then it's would be kind of an interesting industry to be in, because it's interacting with people, it's working with people, talking to people, guiding people. And so making sure you're still creating those opportunities, because even though we can't necessarily be in the office or hanging out with each other, we do the best we can right now. And again, Zoom fatigue is we were talking about that this morning in our staff meeting. It's a real thing and it's not the same, but at least it's something that can keep you connected. And so talk to coworkers or other agents in your office, setting up calls or something just to stay connected to people, because otherwise, man, it can get pretty out of control. So finding those social social interactions to be able to, again, keep that connection with actual people going, I think is really important for productivity purposes, but also just for general well-being. That's been something I've really had to work on.
Yeah. I agree with both of those, especially with the social interactions. And, initially I was looking forward to Zoom meetings. Not that I don't anymore, but I can understand if someone has 5 or 6 in a day, that could lead to be like, all right, I'm done with these Zoom meetings. But, whenever we have our staff meeting or interact with other people, those are things that I look forward to, because you get to see people face to face and chat with them like you would on a regular basis. Yeah. So kind of going with that, since we aren't seeing these people often, and like I'd mentioned before, you're not popping into someone's office to say, hey, check that out, or I did this, or what do you think about this? Just bouncing around with those ideas. I think it's also important. You might feel like you might be annoying people, but over communicate a little bit, because you're losing those little touches that you would normally have. And that's also important just for, productivity and getting feedback and bouncing around ideas. I know Will and I have gotten on a call where one thing leads to another, and then we're just brainstorming for a little bit about things, and we're both like, yes, that was really helpful. I miss doing this.
Yeah, right. Right.
So I think that's good. And then, it doesn't have to be formal all the time, texting and communicating. It can be as simple as an emoji, a smiley face, a thumbs up. I know a lot of our stuff, when we're sending out big announcements, it's confirm with an emoji, which I think is fun. And then everyone's kind of having fun with that and picking what emoji they want to put in there. So, just have fun with it too.
Absolutely. It's easy to get too serious and just forget that we got to have a little relaxation and fun, even in work stuff. So absolutely. Another big thing is the distractions, and there's always distractions, right? Social media, those kinds of things. But when you're at home, I feel like it is 10 times the risk of distractions. I mean, and part of that is you're not in an environment where you're around other people that are working, and that kind of causes you to work because everybody else is doing it. So, it kind of compounds off each other. But when you're left to your own devices, it's so easy to get distracted. And it could be something like, well, turn the TV on, and next thing you know, 3 hours later, I'm still watching the Today Show and haven't done anything. Or getting up and doing the dishes or something, right? Those are all good things to do, but you can all of a sudden, I've started doing housework or working on some project at the house, which is a good thing to do, but it's not during the time when I've scheduled for work. And then now all of a sudden I'm not doing any work, and I got to figure out when I'm going to do that. And but now my schedule's off. Now I'm working at 9:00 at night, and just all those kinds of things that can create a problem when you let those distractions get in the way. So this goes back to that early thing of when you set a schedule, you have to be kind of strict with it. Otherwise, you let those distractions get in, and then your schedule's blown, and it can really get in your head. So, I'm not going to say stay off social media, but be careful. I don't know, because it can be a black hole, right? And so any of these things can and take away from our ability to productively work at home. So, just those distractions, and the outside of having things like, I look at Josh and Will, they've each got a few young children running around the house. So their distractions are tenfold what mine are. But certainly we all have our own kinds of distractions that can get in the way.
Yeah, for sure. And that's staying off of social media. It's always a black hole. Something's always happening. But especially right now, I usually don't get sucked into, the 100, 200 comment threads. But I've been finding myself getting sucked into those. Last night, while trying to go to bed, I just, made a mistake, and I was on social media, and I was reading through this comment thread, and the next thing I knew, it was 1 or 1:30. It was a really long comment thread. And it was about reopening, and with COVID-19, and should we be open? Should we not be open? So it was, it was one of those things that I got sucked into. So yeah, be careful of that. Something that also helps is separating your workspace from your relaxing space at home, right? Because at home, I didn't have a work office. So initially I started working on the couch. which would end up being I'd be sitting on the couch the whole day, which is, probably not the best thing to do. So, you made a little makeshift office on my island, or a little table, or just that little bit of separation of work and relaxation, I think helps a lot. It also helps you kind of get into a routine and be a little more productive. And the TV is not right in front of me because I'm on the couch, right? So I think a lot of these things kind of compound on each other. And then another thing that I do, and it's good to do, kind of like what you do, is you go outside from time to time when the weather is nice. So I'll go sit on the balcony when the weather is nice, get some vitamin D, get some fresh air, and work from there.
Yeah, so yesterday, we just got a new iMac desktop computer at home, and it's great to have a little bit bigger screen and all that. And so I wanted to use it, but I also wanted to sit outside. So yesterday morning, like 9 o'clock, 8:30, I pulled the iMac out and put it out on our patio, and I was outside all day. I mean, I didn't come inside except to like get water and use the restroom until probably like 4:30, 4 o'clock. And so, yeah, I just hauled my office outside and sat outside all day long on the patio, and it was amazing. And I was super productive. It was fantastic. It's probably my most productive day I've had in a long time. I love the outdoors, and it was just so beautiful outside. So definitely take advantage of that. Like, get outside of your stuffy house and get some fresh air, especially right now when it's so nice. 100% for sure.
That is commitment, taking your iMac, something that's plugged into the wall outside.
Yeah, I had to run an extension cord. We did it though.
That's well done. And I mean, the outside I've also found just kind of relaxes you a little bit, and also it helps me with creativity because you're not, like you said, in that stuffy environment of home.
You bet. So the last thing, and this is probably right before this whole thing started, I was getting into time blocking. So I was trying to take my schedule and take back control of it to where I would set times for like, okay, during this time I'm doing this time I'm doing this, and actually scheduling projects and things like that I'm working on. And I have completely gotten away from that because I'm like, well, I'm working from home and I'll just figure it out. So I've let that like lose control of my time again. And that's been kind of problematic for me. So I'm now working on trying to rejuvenate that interest in doing my schedule, right? And this goes back to not just setting strict hours of when you're working, but also what are you doing during that time, right? So rather than just, I'm going to work from, 8 to 11 and then have lunch and then 1 to 5 or whatever you decide, but actually scheduling out what I'm doing during those times. And I have completely fallen off on that. And some people have different tools they like to use, checklists, whatever it is. But I think that's another thing is take control of your time. Otherwise it will take control of you. And I've definitely fallen off that cliff right now. And so I'm trying to climb my way back up to taking back control, but make sure you're managing your time however works best for you, but have some kind of plan. Otherwise, we're just out here guessing, and that's not a good place to be.
I do like that, the time blocking. I haven't considered doing that, but I think that would be an interesting thing to do. Just because I know there's some things that you just keep pushing back because you're like, oh, I'll work on this later, or I'll do this later, and it just keeps getting further and further behind. So
yeah, I mean, I went total analog and bought a planner for time blocking, which is crazy because I'm like the least paper person ever. But
I remember you getting that, and I was like, yeah. What are you doing? Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm just drastic measures to take control. So, do what you got to do. So anyway, I hope this is just a little discussion of the struggles that we've had and the things that we've been learning working from home, and hope that maybe you can take a few things from that and make sure that you're thinking about working from home in the right way too. And before we got out of here, we wanted to mention there's this cool report that NAR put out, the Resiliency Report, and it talked about some technology tools that people are using to cultivate new relationships and communicate with their clients. And we thought this would be really interesting to just share a little bit of this data so you can see what are realtors out there doing in terms of communicating with their clients and trying to get future clients, not just existing clients. So I thought this was pretty cool. So what are one or two of the takeaways you kind of liked, Nabil?
Well, like you said, I think this part of the report, and I mean the whole report is fascinating, and I think they put this out every week, and every week we update this on our resources page, okrealtors.com/coronavirus. So if you want to go check out this report, head on over to our website, and it's right there, and we'll update that with the next one when it comes out. But I think one of the things that stuck out to me was live videos. And, because that's what I gravitate towards is videos and stuff like that. So it said 52% of realtors didn't use live videos to communicate with clients or to cultivate new relationships. And I would want to just venture a guess and say that number was probably higher before. But it's still 52%. So more than half the people don't do it still. And I think this is, it's a really big opportunity for people to jump on. And I'm sure more people have started doing it. So I suspect that number would keep decreasing.
Yeah, that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting that they said 19% of people don't use social media for business, basically, right? So when we're talking about to communicate or to cultivate relationships with your buyers, sellers, or future clients, that we still have 20% of people that aren't using social media at all today. Like that blew my mind, that there were that many people. And I get it. I spend too much time on social media and I simultaneously hate it and despise it. But it's also, if you're in business, it's, I don't want to say necessary, but it's pretty darn close to being a necessary part of business. But I thought that was really interesting that there was still again, 1 out of 5 realtors aren't using social media. That just completely shocked me. Because again, you've got a large market there and a large opportunity base there to just remind people of what you do, even if it's just simple amount of using social media. Still pretty important, I think. So, but if you're one of those people that's not using social media, I hope you've got a good reason to not use it for business at least, because that is absolutely where business is happening today.
Yeah, they've figured it out.
Yep.
And I think another thing that stood out was that same, I think this is like, again, kind of video related, was a 53% of people did not use WebEx or Zoom to communicate with clients or cultivate new relationships. But the cool thing in this was that 31% use it to interact with future clients. So, I don't know, they're probably hosting like a get to know you, we're chatting, who are you, what are you looking for? So instead of doing that over email or anything like that, it is so much more personal when you can't be face to face to do it over video, so you can see each other while you're talking about preferences and who you are and what your likes are and things like that. I think that is a fantastic idea. Yeah,
for sure. And kind of the last one, again, they've got a lot of things here, but the last one I thought was just sort of an interesting piece is that only 10% of people aren't using e-signatures. And so 90% of realtors in some capacity are using electronic signatures in their transactions. And I think that is such a profound difference in how business is done. When we bought our first house, I don't know, 7 years ago, whenever it was, we still did everything by hand. Like our realtor brought us the documents and we signed them, or like emailed them to us and we'd print them and sign them and scan them and send them back. Like not everybody was really using e-signatures now, but man, I can't remember the last time I've seen a purchase contract in a real estate transaction that used real signatures. I mean, and again, 90% of people are using them. That's one of those technologies that 10 years ago maybe didn't exist, but today is so widespread, it has completely changed the way that business is done. And I suspect we'll see some more of these things, like having Zoom, virtual tours, e-notary, electronic notary that we've been dealing with, those kinds of things that we've got now in Oklahoma. That's the kind of thing that I think we're going to have a pretty big difference on the way business is done on into the future.
Yeah, technology has definitely changed the face of how you do business, and I suspect it's going to keep chipping away at that 10% and make it lower and lower.
Yep, absolutely. So, Well, we just wanted to bring you that little bit of information. Definitely go online and check out this resiliency report. Again, we update this and any other resources that we have available at okrealtors.com/coronavirus. Lots of cool stuff in there. And so when you have a little bit of downtime or wanting to spend a little bit of time just getting updated on some things, go check that out and check out those resources, and hope that you find those valuable.
For sure. And over there, you'll also find some fun Zoom backgrounds to spice up your meetings with clients. You know, if your background is a little messy or is not picturesque, you can get one of the ones that makes it look like you're working in a perfect office.
There you go.
with the realtor sign hanging behind you.
Absolutely.
So go check out our website. Check out all those resources. They're there to help you and guide you through this time. And if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button so you know when the next episode is released. And share this podcast with other agents in your office so they can get all this valuable information as well.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you guys coming back every week to join us here on Talking Real. So until next time, we'll see you next Tuesday on Talking Real.